Controversy over Hindi imposition has again erupted as JDS leader and former Chief Minister of Karnataka H.D. Kumaraswamy wrote a letter to Karnataka Chief Minister Bommai urging his government not to celebrate Hindi Diwas by utilizing or rather wasting the taxpayers' money. JDS also held a protest today. Not just that, JDS also attacked the centre, asking how will Hindi unite the country and that both the Congress and BJP want to impose Hindi. Reacting to this, Chief Minister Bommai said that there is no scope for Hindi imposition in Karnataka and that a special law is being brought to ensure larger use of Kannada. On the other hand, DMK also hit out at the centre over Hindi and said that to them, Hindi is a foreign language. Remember earlier today, Home Minister Amit Shah said that Hindi is the friend of all Indian languages and it unites the whole nation in a thread of unity as an official language.
हिंदी उन समस्त भारतीय भाषाओं की मूल परंपरा से है जो इस देश की मिट्टी से उपजी है, यहीं पुष्पित और पल्लवित हुई है और जिन्होंने अपनी शब्द संपदा, भाव संपदा, रूप, शैली और अपने पदों से हिंदी को लगातार समृद्ध किया है। राजभाषा हिंदी किसी भी भारतीय भाषा की प्रतिस्पर्धी नहीं है, बल्कि उसकी सखी है और हमारी सभी भाषाओं का विकास एक दूसरे के परस्पर सहयोग से ही संभव है।
Raising this issue, he wanted to break this country, this unity, this country's unity, he wanted to break it. Why you are forcing? People who wanted to learn several languages, they will learn. So the Congress leave it to them. This is important for BJP only. Now, why he is raising this issue? By raising this issue, he wanted to break this country, this unity, this country's unity, he wanted to break it. This is our question.
Is it an imposition, you call it, sir?
Yeah, definitely. Why you are forcing? People who wanted to learn several languages, they will learn. So the Congress, you leave it to them. No, both Congress and BJP. I know, even from 1947, Congress also, they tried to impose this Hindi.
हमारा प्रधानमंत्री जी ने उन्होंने खुद स्टेटमेंट दिए, सभी भारतीय भाषाओं भारत का आत्मा है, ऐसा स्टेटमेंट दिए प्रधानमंत्री जी ने। हिंदी दिवस आज शुरू हुई है क्या? 1949 से हिंदी दिवस आचरण शुरू कर रहा है। 1996 में लेकर 13 महीने सम्मान्य श्री देवेगौड़ा जी प्रधानमंत्री रहे, उस समय भी हिंदी दिवस आचरण किया था।
ನಮ್ಮ ಪ್ರಧಾನಮಂತ್ರಿಗಳು ಕೂಡ ಬಹಳಷ್ಟು ಸ್ಪಷ್ಟವಾಗಿ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಎಲ್ಲ ಮಾತೃಭಾಷೆಗಳೇನಿದ್ದಾವೆ ಪ್ರಾದೇಶಿಕ ಭಾಷೆಗಳು ಅವೆಲ್ಲವೂ ಕೂಡ ರಾಷ್ಟ್ರೀಯ ಭಾಷೆಗಳಂತಲೇ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಕನ್ನಡವನ್ನು ಅತ್ಯಂತ ಅಗ್ರಗಣ್ಯ ಭಾಷೆಯಾಗಿಯೇ ನಮ್ಮ ಬಳಕೆ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಇವತ್ತು ಕನ್ನಡ ಬಳಕೆ ಹೆಚ್ಚು ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಒಂದು ಕಾನೂನನ್ನೇ ತರ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ ನಾವು. ಇದೇ ಸೆಷನ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ವಿಧಾನಸಭೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಕನ್ನಡವನ್ನು ಕಾನೂನಾತ್ಮಕವಾಗಿ ಕಡ್ಡಾಯ ಮಾಡುವಂಥದ್ದು ಪ್ರಥಮ ಬಾರಿ ಈ ರಾಜ್ಯದಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ತರ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇವೆ.
All right, for more on this, I'm joined by my colleague Neha, who's reporting on this story. Neha, thank you for joining us. It is on expected lines, the kind of resistance that's being seen by political parties, and protests were held in the state of Karnataka. Can you take us through what really happened today and the sense of resentment in the Kannada outfits as far as the Hindi Diwas is concerned?
Yes, Archana, the Hindi imposition debate is not new in the state of Karnataka. It has been there for quite some time. And every time there's a statement made by, a central leader, in fact, in Delhi or elsewhere in the country, we see that, this debate is reignited. Now, this time around, former Chief Minister of Karnataka, H.D. Kumaraswamy, has, in fact, had written a letter saying that Hindi Diwas should not be allowed to be celebrated in the state of Karnataka, spending the money of the state and of Kannadigas. Now, understandably, for long, we're also seeing how there has been a sentiment that has been developing across the state of Karnataka against this idea of Hindi imposition, so to speak. Now, to put this into context, while H.D. Kumaraswamy, had written that letter, the BJP, in fact, both the state BJP as well as, the central BJP did go on to add that while, yes, the Union Home Minister Amit Shah had made a statement about one language, one nation, the state BJP unit over here, Chief Minister Basavaraj Bommai, clarifying today in the floor of the assembly that, there is no question or there is no scope, in fact, of Hindi imposition over here. But having said that, like the Prime Minister has said, one must respect all the languages. He's also further gone on to say that, the government would be bringing in a legislation in this assembly wherein more importance, more prominence would be given to Kannada as a language and to bring it into more official spaces as well. So while on one hand we are seeing how, the politics is what has taken center stage, the BJP, in fact, over here has alleged that H.D. Kumaraswamy has raked up this issue again just merely for political gains now ahead of the assembly. But the larger issue at hand, and a few pertinent points also to bring up over here, is how recently, in fact, in the state of Karnataka, a check was rejected merely because it was written in Kannada. That's one aspect of things. Secondly, also, how people on ground still, to a large extent in the state, not only in Karnataka, but also in other southern states like Tamil Nadu and Kerala as well, many people, still, in fact, aren't really educated enough in English or in Hindi, and hence the regional language is required. So that's the second argument coming forth. Now, while the politics of this, of course, is one aspect of things which is going to continue, considering that it is the election year over here, the larger issue about what exactly would be the contents of this legislation and how over here the government plans to, really retain Kannada as a language and, save its culture. That's going to be the bigger question that's being asked right now by the people.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Neha, for getting us those updates and giving us a lowdown on what this entire controversy is all about. We're also joined by a special guest on the broadcast. Suresh Nelamangala, spokesperson BJP, is joining us on the broadcast. And in a while from now, we'll also have a representative from the JDS. Mr. Suresh, thank you so much for making time and speaking to Mirror now on this very, very sensitive issue. For the benefit of our viewers and the people who are watching us in Karnataka, is it mandatory to celebrate the Hindi Diwas?
See, first of all, asking this kind of a question is something that is, very surprising. Very, very clearly, Article 343(1) of the Constitution states that there are 22 scheduled languages, including Kannada, which are part of the official communication. So this is something that at the government level that we do every year. That is the first point. The second point is, celebrating Hindi Diwas by no means implies or means that somebody is against Kannada language or usage of Kannada language in governance. In fact, if you look at the Bharatiya Janata Party and if you look at the NEP, right, the National Education Policy of 2020, there is a massive importance given to the local languages and learning in the local language up to class 4. In fact, we have already made it an option for kids to choose learning in Kannada up to class 4 if they wish to as part of our NEP. And in terms of, the governance process itself in Karnataka is concerned, everything that we do is purely in Kannada, which is the official language. Now, only to choose a specific day and hold a placard on a specific day and sort of oppose the Hindi Diwas or the whole Hindi language as such clearly sparks of hypocrisy.
Right.
Especially on the part of JDS. Why? Because if you look at Ramnagar, the constituency from where Kumaraswamy comes, there is a huge, sizable chunk of Muslim voters. And there is a lot of Urdu communication that happens in Ramnagar. Now, do they hold similar placards and oppose Urdu as well? I don't see that, happening.
Mm-hmm.
So to specifically create this kind of, whip up emotions, build hysteria based on false narratives and false information is something that the public cannot be hoodwinked with, right? So they know what is Hindi Diwas. They know how strongly we.
Right. Mr. Suresh, thank you for weighing in, and to respond to that, I'm joined by JDS leader T.R. Prasad Gowda. And when I asked that question to you, that is it mandatory? I know it is a surprising question, but I'll tell you why. And the JDS needs to respond on this question. Mr. Gowda, it is not mandatory to celebrate this. It is, I understand it is a sensitive issue. But if it's not mandatory, then what is the problem? How is it a wastage of taxpayers' money? Could you please explain this to our viewers?
We are going through a very bad situations in the state of Karnataka, madam. And we are in the state of Karnataka, especially in Bangalore, city Bangalore, and we are facing the flood situations all across Bangalore. Government is not able to handle the situations, and people who are living in the area of Bellandur, Electronic City, where a lot of companies are there. The renowned companies from all over the world are there, and companies are threatening that we are living Bangalore if you cannot provide the proper infrastructure and civic communities and proper drainage system. Because the companies which we are having are all very big timers. They have preferred, instead of giving the proper amenities, proper infrastructure to this not only this area, the people are suffering in a company in slums also, who are working in these factories, in the companies. They are living on the below poverty line. People are all struggling, and in this time, what we suggesting them is do not waste government exchequer to celebrate Hindi Diwas, because it is not mandatory in the state of Tamil Nadu. They are not doing it. In the state of Telangana, they are not doing it. So just for the sake, just to please your leaders, Amit Shah or Modi, do not do this, because we are not afford to spend money on just celebrations. When your house in order, you can do some celebrations. When your house itself is not in order, your means we are all in one home. Like thinking in that way, why do you want to waste money on that? In that line, our leader has wrote a letter to Chief Minister Bommai, making that. It's not the question of making politicization or whatever it is. The people are looking, other, BJP making some narrow statements about that. We are suggesting them, do not waste money. Yeah. State is in problem. Instead of looking at those problems, you are just spending. And you are good in bringing the sentiments of the people. Now you are talking about when everything is fine. Okay, let's think about celebrations and other things. That's what we meant. Our leader meant.
Okay. All right. Let's get in a BJP response to that. Mr. Suresh, you just heard Mr. Gowda. Are you pleasing the centre? Are you pleasing Mr. Amit Shah, who in 2019 said that Hindi should be made the national language, and after that there was massive outrage, and today again he said that strengthening of Hindi is very important in order for other languages to grow. So JDS is saying that you're pleasing the centre, you're pleasing Mr. Amit Shah.
See, Archana, there is no question of pleasing anyone. And this is a government program that is not happening today or yesterday. Or it is not something that we started after 2014. It is something that was there all along for many decades. And only today, JDS happens to realize that, they have some political mileage that they can gain. I'll also tell the other issue that JDS has right now. If you look at the Bangalore-Mysore highway and all the towns along the highway, the cities, you have JDS legislators. Now, the Bharatiya Janata Party under the central leadership and the state leadership, is building a massive 6-lane highway, which is almost nearing completion. Now, all the development, promise that they made all these years representing the constituency and did absolutely nothing. Now, when we have built that large highway, it has totally unnerved them. It is their bastion where we are doing development work, and there is a huge support for the BJP, especially in the old Mysore region where JDS strong pockets are. There is a swing that is happening. Now, because of all these things on the ground, they somehow want to bring up emotional issues and try to whip up hysteria through such false statements. So this is something that is very clearly visible, and that's something that can be seen.
Absolutely.
That it has unnerved the JDS leaders, especially H.D. Kumaraswamy, after having represented that constituency for many decades and done no development work there.
Okay.
Dr. Ashwath Narayan, who is our in charge, and the Member of Parliament, Sri Pratap Simha, and some of our leaders have taken special interest to develop that region and give it the importance that it needs. So this is the problem for the JDS.
Okay,
that
all right.
They cannot really sort of compete with us, or they cannot show anything for themselves in terms of what development they have done.
Right.
And
all right. Mr. Gowda, the BJP is saying since you don't have enough on the party's CV to show the kind of work you've done, which is why you're using this as a deflection, as a matter of distraction. And I'm glad you spoke about the people of Karnataka. I'm glad you spoke about their concerns. But I want to cite one example, and it's a very problematic comment made by one of your leaders, Mr. CM Ibrahim. I'll tell you what he said. We don't need Hindi. We are not going to the north to sell Pani Puri. They are coming here and selling Pani Puri. Has anyone from Karnataka gone to do that? They keep saying Gujarat model, UP model, but in Karnataka, those who sell handkerchief, pan and Pani Puri are from the north. What is the problem? Like, what is the link between Hindi and Pani Puri? What is this Pani Puri and talking about somebody's work, that somebody's trying to make their ends meet and you're dragging their work into it? And how is language even related to that? What kind of an argument is this?
I mean, our leader Ibrahim said, mentioned about selling Pani Puri. The people who are from north are usually selling Pani Puri, and people from Bihar, people from Gujarat are engaged in selling Pani Puri. This kind of stuff, sir. No one from Karnataka doing.
Do you condole? No, one second. Do you accept this kind of a comment? Isn't it a sweeping comment? And don't you think that it was made in a very condescending way?
No, we don't see. We don't see. In the he meant is there is no need of imposing forcibly Hindi on the people. People knows Hindi. Here in Karnataka, people knows Hindi. Not that we don't know Hindi. We know it. But
I'm absolutely with you. I do not believe in forcing anything. I don't believe in imposing anything. I'm only seeking your response on CM Ibrahim's comment on linking Pani Puri with Hindi. What has that got to do with the language, sir? Do you condole the comment of your leader, or do you condemn it? Do you think what Mr. CM Ibrahim has said is fine? That we don't speak Hindi, we don't sell Pani Puri. What does it even mean?
On what context he made
whatever the context, I'm still going to read out what he said. We don't need Hindi. We are not going to the north to sell Pani Puri. Pani Puri का क्या लेना देना है हिंदी से?
Okay, our citizens of Karnataka will not go to sell Pani Puri in north. That's you must have meant in that way. But we know Hindi. Our people have studied.
Play that bite. I would also urge you to listen to what your colleague has said, and then we can continue this conversation.
ನಾವೇನು ಪಾನಿಪುರಿ ಮಾರಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಆ ಹಿಂದಿಯವರೇ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದು ಪಾನಿಪುರಿ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರೋದು. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಖರ್ಚು ಮಾಡೋರು ಪಾನಿಪುರಿ ಪಾನ್ ಬಿಡ ಮಾರ ಅವರೇ.
Okay, Mr. Gowda, I hope the context is clear. Now, could you please respond to that? And I think he was the manner. I mean, it's for everyone to gauge the kind of tone he had, the kind of condescending tone he had while referring to Hindi and Pani Puri. I still don't get it.
No, because he was frustrated because the people center is trying to impose forcibly on Karnataka, our Kannada people. That is why on that contest he must have made that comment. I will not welcome that statement. But imposition forcibly is not correct. In that context, he have made that statement.
Okay, Mr. Gowda, and we've lost the BJP representative on the broadcast. However, I'm still saying that we do not believe in imposing, or we do not want anything to be imposed, but it's absolutely condemnable for any public representative or for any politician or for any public figure to drag somebody's economic options, their job or their economic background, or making a sweeping statement like this, that we don't sell Pani Puri and we don't speak Hindi. This is only going to weaken your argument. Thank you so much, thank you so much, Mr. Gowda, for that. All right, we have the BJP representative back on the broadcast. Mr. Suresh, one final comment. We heard JDS, they are trying to say that since the state is grappling with so much crisis, you just had urban mess, the state government is doing nothing, you've got your priorities wrong. But I was trying to ask that question to Mr. Gowda, that one of his leaders mentioned that we don't speak Hindi and we don't sell Pani Puri in the north. Do you think that this debate is because of, as a political party it is being made, or as Kannadigas, the opposition, the resistance to this is due to being an opposition party, or as a Kannadiga?
No, that is a very distasteful and very, poor comment that is made by the JDS. So what if someone is selling Pani Puri? I mean, you cannot, degrade or speak lowly of any profession. I think that's a very bad statement that the JDS is making. That is the first point. The second point, Mr. Kumaraswamy, when he was the chief minister, Archana, he used to stay in a 5-star hotel called Taj West End. In the costliest room in that 5-star hotel, I think, it runs into, I think, 1 lakh or something per day. He used to stay there. So someone who has this kind of lifestyle, when he is the chief minister, and now to come out and say, don't celebrate Hindi Diwas is extreme, just look at the kind of brazen hypocrisy on display there, right? That is something that is totally not acceptable, and the people of Karnataka are watching this hypocrisy, right? That is one more point. And in terms of the kind of development, that they have done, or the kind of track record they have, it is a big zero. They have accomplished nothing. All the time they have captured power through the back door by winning handful of seats. And now to come and talk about all these things is nothing but a mere display of stunt. And to make those kind of comments, I think is totally unacceptable and very bad.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Suresh Nelamangala and TRS and TR Prasad Gowda for joining us on the broadcast. I hope that the sensitive issue is dealt with caution and is dealt while keeping all sensitivities in mind. With that, we're wrapping this conversation. Thank you for joining us on the broadcast.